Okay, thank you. Okay, so my presentation today is on nudging. So many of us have heard about nudging. So the topic is, does nudging work in improving farmer adoption of agricultural technologies? And I will be presenting the preliminary results of our project, of our research in South Asia. So I must warn you that this is still preliminary because we are still in the process of analyzing data. In fact, earlier this week I was thinking whether I should proceed with this because we haven't got the final data yet, but we decided that it might be a good idea to present now so we can also get feedback from the audience. So just a brief background on the context about the study. For almost a decade now, conservation agricultural-based sustainable intensification technologies, or CASI, has been introduced in South Asia. And it has been here actually in Australia for quite a long time. Because I remember coming here over 20 years ago, no-till was such a big thing in WA. But in South Asia, I've been involved in a project called Sustainable and Resilient Farming Systems Innovation in 2014. And a number of field experiments were being conducted in Nepal, India, and Bangladesh to test whether CASI, or conservation agriculture-based sustainable intensification technologies, will work. And since then, it's around 6 years ago, 7 years ago, we actually have done a lot of studies on this and have published some of the results. And we have found that CASI actually can make actually a difference in the lives of farmers. So it has been found to improve the nexus between the water, energy, land use. It has also been shown to improve income of farmers. Of course, the caveat to that is that the impacts are not the same. And in some areas, CASI is not suitable. But in general, we have found that CASI actually can help improve incomes, productivity, and actually the livelihoods of farmers. And the other thing that we have found as well is that CASI actually can be changing also for changing the lives of women as well. For women, we have actually a paper that we are trying to find a home. we are trying to submit it to a journal, and hopefully we can get a journal to publish it. That showed that there is a significant difference in the income of women who have adopted CASI. So it can be actually also very useful in terms of bridging the gap between male and female farmers. And it probably is not surprising, therefore, that agencies such as ACR have spent a large amount of investment in Asia and in Africa to actually introduce CASI. So, for example, as I mentioned, the SRFSI, or the Sustainable and Resilient Farming Systems Intensification in the Eastern Gangetic Plains, which was run in the 3 countries I mentioned earlier, Nepal, India, and Bangladesh, actually have been experimenting on different farming systems, different crops that can be used for CASI. And there's also another project, the implications of sustainable intensification on weed dynamics in the EGP in 2019. And another one as well in Nepal, looking mainly at sustainable agricultural mechanization. And recently in Pacific countries, conservation agriculture of sustainable intensification of small holding farming systems about 2 years ago in 2020. And so this is happening. But despite these massive investments in conservation agricultural technology and the proven benefits already in countries where it was introduced, the adoption is very patchy. We have some successes, for example, in West Bengal, where the scaling was quite successful. It's been taken up. In fact, the government has even been, providing some support and supporting the spread of this technology. But in most of the other places, the adoption is really low. And this is despite, the various extension that has been done to promote this. In particular, it's low outside the project site. So in the project sites, it's actually quite good, but outside project sites, it's actually quite low in many cases. And of course, there are many reasons for this. There's actually infrastructural, institutional, and other factors. But even when in cases where the technology is available, for example, still the adoption is sometimes low. Now, recently, governments and also both private and public sector is actually looking at behavioral economics and how it can be used to, to increase adoption of different, policies and programs and projects that and various interventions. And it has been applied in many areas. For example, in health. For example, during COVID, so they use behavioral economics. In fact, I was invited to one talk where one of the presenters actually showed how they use behavioral economics in trying to increase the adoption of mask wearing, because some people didn't like to wear masks, and also washing hands and all that. So they use behavioral economics, and it was very, very successful. So what we're thinking as well in this project is that can we use behavioral economics to actually nudge farmers to adopt technologies that have been proven? Because we are aware that there are ethical issues with this. If you nudge people and it's actually not good for them, then you're actually making their situation worse. So there's this thing that we have in our head about doing no harm. So it's nudging for good. So because the classic technologies have been tested in the areas that we actually have been doing the research, so we actually felt that okay, this is a good time to go in and try to test whether nudging can work. So there are lots of tools about nudging that can be used, but which ones will work and whether they will actually work. So the question we have is, can behavioral economics be a tool in improving adoption of technologies? So what is nudging? So according to Thaler and Sunstein, nudging is any aspect of the choice architecture that alters people's behavior in a predictable way, but you don't really forbid them. So it's very different from mandates or making rules or bans, because there are many ways to influence behavior. And a common one is actually by having some mandates. For example, it's illegal for us to steal or to hurt someone. Right? Even if we're angry, we can't just go and punch someone. That's illegal. So, and there can also be, other ways of altering behavior, like using incentives, and it can also be disincentives. For example, if with cigarettes, taxing us for cigarettes, or subsidies to encourage farmers to take on more, to take on, for example, use of fertilizers, so subsidies can be reduced. So there are actually incentives and disincentives. But there are also tools such as nudging, behavioral economics tools, that doesn't really require mandate. So you basically nudge them, just similar to this giraffe here, who is trying to nudge the baby giraffe to do, to start walking for its own good. So what are nudges? So according to Sunstein, nudges are liberty-preserving approaches because they don't force you, okay? They nudge you. So it's not really like this figure here on the left of the screen, on your right. Where you push someone. So it's just a bit of a nudge, not a push or a shove. Okay, although sometimes we do need a bit of that. But nudges are liberty-preserving approaches that steer people in particular directions, but that also allow them to go their own way. So you're not forcing them. It's really up to them. This has become increasingly popular because it's relatively cheap to do. And as I mentioned, you still give them their freedom to choose. So it has become a favorite tool now that people are experimenting. In marketing, they've been using things such as this. For example, in advertising, you can actually advertise the benefits of pork, for example, they're showing it, or the benefits of eating vegetables.
Issue online.
Oh, issue online? Oh, okay. How do we do that? Help Dave.
Yes. They cannot see the slides. There are too many introductory slides.
Can anyone help?
Who's good with the system?
Who's good with the system?
Abby says you're possibly showing the wrong screen, the PowerPoint program rather than the presentation mode. I don't know what that means.
Thanks, Abby.
What happened?
Yes. Big brother, thank you.
I can hear everything.
Yeah, thank you. So apparently people are seeing my, not the slide presentation.
Just the first slide.
Just the first slide. So it doesn't seem to be moving.
Okay, could you go to sharing? If you go to the browser. Okay, it's moving now.
Is it moving?
Yeah. Okay.
Yes, now it's good.
Yeah. Have you been clicking on the? Okay. So what's? Okay. Could you move more?
Just change your slide. You got to share the screen, not the PowerPoint.
Here the screen.
Yeah. I was wondering. Yeah. Okay.
I haven't got my glasses on, so this is a brave step. Okay,
Maybe let's change the sharing so it's just the entire screen.
Okay, where's sharing on here? This is where I need someone with glasses.
There should be a floating bar somewhere towards, yeah, that I just saw it at center bottom.
It's working now.
Thank you. Sorry about that. Yes. And
Okay, working now. Good.
Thank you.
I was wondering why the introduction was so long.
You weren't listening.
Well, I was doing other things, but listening and not watching.
Okay, sorry about that. So, but that's a good break. So as I said, you know, nudges has become popular both in the private and public sector because it's relatively cheap to do, but the impacts could be massive. It could be actually just for little changes, you can actually make a big difference. So there are 10 common nudges according to Sunstein, and after this is very useful for those of you interested in behavioral economics and in nudging in particular. Sunstein wrote an article which is very, very simple and direct, nudging, a very short guide, available at Harvard University. But they're basically, he identified 10 common nudges. So they're the default rules. So for example, you know, when you enroll in something, there's a default. So that, you know, if you're lazy or just are too busy, you don't have to do anything. So that's one way. So if you want to actually make people adopt something, make it the default, and you will get a lot. The other one is simplification. So some technologies or some interventions are too complex, and people don't want to adopt because they're too difficult. But by simplifying it, you can actually improve adoption. Others are like use of social norms. So for example, studies have shown that people like to do what the herd is doing. So like the herd mentality or herd behavior. So if you tell in your advertisement that most people, actually 90% are already adopting this or have tried it, you also want to be part of that. So you want to do it as well. So increasing ease and convenience. So making things easier to do. For example, you know, if you want a product to be bought, put it in a place where people can easily reach it. Don't put it on the very top shelf because, you know, people short like me cannot see it or cannot reach it. So make it easy for people to do. The other one is disclosure, full disclosure. For example, saying that, you know, if you don't do this, like, for example, the environmental benefits, you know, then this is what will happen. So give a full disclosure. Warnings or graphic or otherwise, and people who actually smoke have seen this, isn't it? So in the cigarette, they say smoking is bad for you. Or even in the, you know, the television, they show advertisements showing what it will do to your throat or to your lungs. So that's actually very confronting, and usually that works, or in many cases it works. The other one is pre-commitment strategies, asking people to pre-commit because people don't want to be seen as liars. So they want to do something that they promise they will do. And we actually, I think last year I presented one of our experiments on pre-commitment. And then the other one is reminders. And we do this, most of us already do it, isn't it? Like, you know, and this is happening also, you know, sometimes if you don't pay your bill, you will receive a reminder from, you know, Synergy to please pay your bill. And that reminds you to do something, to act on it. But we do it. When I was a student, I have reminders all over my wall to remind me to finish assignment on this date. So, you know, we do it in, you know, certain ways already, many things we do. Eliciting implementation intention. So asking them, are you going to vote? You know, so just that increases, you know, their tendency to vote. And then the other thing is informing people of the nature and consequences of their own past choices. So, you know, a little bit like guilt tripping, I suppose. So these are the 10 common nudges. So what I'm going to present today is reminders for farmers. Will it work for farmers? And reminders, oops, why did it go to the end? Because I made a mistake. Sorry. Reminders actually, because you can send it via text, can be a powerful tool in reaching farmers in developing countries. Because usually the ratio of extension workers and farmers is actually quite small. So using ICT can be a tool, but can it be actually an effective tool? So our objective in this research is to examine whether nudging via text reminders can increase the intention to adopt CASI technology in South Asia. Actually, the whole the full objective is actually to test whether it will really change behavior. But because we're still gathering the end line, we don't have the data for that. At the moment, what we only have is the intention to adapt. And so that's why I just put the objective as that. To identify the factors, and then also the second objective is to identify the factors influencing intention to adopt CASI. Come on. Sorry about that, because I'm used to my computer, which is down. Okay, I should avoid that. I should add. Okay, so the methods what we did. Now, as you know, there is now a debate in the economic circles that about the usefulness of RCT, because some people said that the gold standard in impact analysis, they're saying is RCT because it's fully random. Although we do use propensity score matching if we don't have an RCT design, but if you can do an RCT, then this really tries to ensure that the treatments are or the people in your treatments are randomly selected.
What does RCT stand for?
Sorry, randomized control trials, RCT trials. So we have a control and then 3 treatments. So our sample size is 1,700 because we have 85 per treatment, times we have 4 treatments, so the control plus the 3, and then we have 5 sites. And the criteria for site selection, we have to be very careful here. First, we have to choose that they're similar agroecological and physical characteristics of the sites. The farmers have some knowledge or awareness of CASI, because how will they adapt if they don't know about CASI, right? So at least they have some knowledge, and then CASI-based machines are available because there's no point in promoting them if it's not available. And we actually have found this. In some cases, why they're not adapting is because they want to adapt, but there's no machine. So that's why we had to make sure that CASI-based machines are available either in the area or in very close villages. And the villages should currently have low adoption rates of CASI technologies. Because if it's a high adapting village, we will not see the real impact. So to really see whether our treatments or our experiments will work, we have to have a starting point where the adoption is low, or that people haven't been adapting it. And then that's why we actually have to have new areas or villages, not SRFSI villages. Because in SRFSI adoption villages, it's already quite high. So we don't go there. So we also ensure that the control villages are located really far from the experimental villages to avoid possible spillover and contamination. That's critical in the design because otherwise it will fail. So this is our RCT experiment. The control is what we have done because we have to equal the playing field. We have to even out the playing field. So everybody was shown an awareness video about what CASI is, what are the benefits of CASI, what it can do. And then, so all treatments were given that, but then in treatment 1, we have a text messaging a week after the video. So 3 slightly different messages delivered a couple of days apart over 1 week. The second treatment is that the text message 2 weeks before planting, so very close to planting. We have 3 different, again, same message that we had for T1, but done just 2 weeks before planting. And T3 is, we did it twice. 1 week after the video was shown, and then 2 weeks before planting. You will be surprised with the results. Okay, nudging. We have to have, because we are working in 5 sites in 3 countries, it was critical that the video had the same. We can't use the same video because they're different countries and they will understand. They will see, oh, that's India. I'm Nepalese. What has that to do with me? So they have to. Each country have to design their own videos, but the content must be similar. So we actually had. We had the teams. We gave them guidelines as to how they should. What should be the content, and then there was a small committee that sat. And check the videos, whether the contents we said are actually present. For example, the videos must have the discussion points, introducing CA principles and showing seeding and the basic function with the ZT zero-till machine, yield results, the production cost, savings, retaining straw, the different benefits basically. And then at the end of the video, we include a summary on who and where to contact, because they might want to adapt, but they don't know who to contact. So there's that. And then the framing is mixed. So we have positive and negative framing of the messages. And then we try to include both male and female if possible. And then when, sorry, this is for us as soon as practical and relevant. And then how? Preferably shown in groups with a facilitator so that the facilitator can answer questions from the group if they have questions. So all treatments are that. And this is the message we did. For the first message, the message one is very simple. Conservation agriculture increases profit by decreasing cost with savings in cultivation, labor, seed fertilizer, and irrigation. It reduces drudgery too. So simple messages. Around our target was around 16 words because it's a text message, SMS message. And then message two, sent 2 days after, around 2 days. Conservation agriculture has similar or increased yields by timely seeding, conserving moisture, improving soil fertility, and greater resilience. Because this we already found this out from the SRFSI trials. So we are just, so the words will depend on, what is more appropriate for that area. And then message three is keeping the stubbles residues of previous crops adds organic matter, which improves soil health for better and more profitable future crops. And then we have the name of the contact person, and then we added the word now. So it's a nudge, so do it now, because we already had 3 messages, so that last one has a now. In fact, in some nudges, they said if you use red font, it's actually even more powerful. Or if you put, an exclamation point, it's an action nudge. So, but we use the word now. Okay, and the research sites we had, as I mentioned, 5 sites. So Sunsari in Nepal, in West Bengal we have Kuch Bihar and Malda in West Bengal in India, and then we also had Bihar. In Bangladesh we have 2 sites, Rajshahi and Rampur in Bangladesh. And this is what we have done. So what we have done is first we have collected a pre-treatment, a baseline data during the Rabi 2019-2020 season. So we have N equals 1,700 across the 3 countries. Then we conducted a behavioral field experiment using the RCT, randomized control trial. And then, so it's still 1,700 farmers. Actually, in the baseline, there's actually more than this. It's double this because we have other experiments. But the sample size I'm presenting is only for the nudging, for the text messages. And then third, after that, about within a month after the RCT was completed, we then did a post-intervention survey, very short, 2-page questionnaire, just asking them their intention to adapt. And then we merged the 2 data sets. There are lots of people who actually, well, not lots, some who did participate, but we haven't finished the cleaning of the data because some of them, the IDs did not match. We need to match them, so we're still in the process of data cleaning. And so far, the match data is only 751. So the presentation I'm going to do is only for the 751. So when we finish all this, we're hoping that it will be finished before the end of the year. We will have them as close as possible to 1.7. I don't think we will reach 1.7 because there are dropouts. And this is the problem with RCT, you can't force them, so there are dropouts. I think we will have around 1,400 plus, but it's still a significant number. Then we analyze the intention to adopt using both ordered logit and probit models. And then we check the variance inflation factor for multicollinearity. There is no multicollinearity problem, which is great. And then we also looked at the Akaki and Bayesian information criteria. They were lower for ordered logit, so we prefer this model. So the presentation I'll be doing now is only for the AIC. We also checked for proportional odds assumption or the parallel regression assumption and noted that it was violated. Parallel regression assumption was violated. So we use the generalized ordered logit model. So we then run the general ordered logit and marginal analysis and interpret the results. So this is now the results. Okay, so what we have found here is that participants who indicated that they will decrease the area or not at all, in T1 it's very high, 41%. In T1, those that said that they will decrease or not adapt at all is 19%. In T2, it's 21%, and in T3, it's 19% as well. And participants who indicated that they will increase, so their intention is to increase their adoption of CASI areas, TO is 17%, so there's still an increase because, I think there will be an effect because they all saw the video. But for treatment 1, it's 33%, treatment 2, 26%, and treatment 3 was 23%.
Can you help me interpret those?
Oh, sorry. Oh, yeah.
So the first one's decrease the area or not
Ah,
adopt at
so-
all?
Yeah, so we actually asked them, actually there were 4 questions: decrease the area or not. Decrease the area, they intend, so after seeing, after the treatment, they will decrease the area planted to CASI,
So
using
what
CASI.
does 0.41 tell me for control?
So 0.41% basically said that they will decrease the area or not adopt at all. Basically, by the way, we had to combine the decrease the area or not adopt at all because the decrease the area was less than 5%. So we actually had to combine the two. Otherwise, we can't do the.
And the 0.19 for treatment 1.
So the
just below the 41.
T1, this one,
So
19%.
what does that tell me?
So in those under treatment 1, so when we interviewed them, 19% said that they will not adopt or they will decrease their CASI, the land they plant to CASI. Because most farmers will not plant their whole land, their whole land to CASI. So a percentage.
Is that an additional 19%, or is it that there were 22% fewer?
No, this is the 19% said that they will be either decreasing or not adopting CASI at all.
As opposed to 41 in the control.
Just summary statistic. It's not
Summary.
It's not from the model.
You add up the row, you get to 100%.
Yes, if you add this, it will be 100%. This is the percentage of people who said. So basically, so after the treatment, we asked them, do you intend to adopt or do you will you decrease the land you will be using for CASI, and then
But if I add up
remain
treatment
in the
1 rows,
same.
it doesn't add up to 100%. I'm struggling with how to interpret the treatment 1 numbers.
Treatment 1 numbers. 19.
Treatment 3, that's 16,
19.
19, 26, and 33 don't add up to 100%.
Oh yeah, that's true, isn't it?
change my comment. They should add up to 100%.
They should add up to 100. So we will check this. But you're right. This should be 100. So 41.41. So 0.41. 0.41 said they will decrease in under treatment 119. 0.19 said they will decrease, and then
You're adding the
0.26.
columns, not the rows.
If you add control and 3 treatments, it will be 100.
Oh yeah, that's right. 19 plus
Yeah, like 41 plus 19 plus 21 plus 19 will make 100.
100. Yeah. Yes, that's correct. 0.41, 0.19, 0.21. Oh, correct. Yeah.
So now I still don't understand how to interpret that.
It should be that way, isn't
Of
it?
the people who said they would decrease the area, 41% were in the control.
Got it.
Yes.
Of the people who said they would decrease the area.
It should be this way.
Yes.
It should be this way. So I will check that, but that's a good way. So 0, it should be this way. The 100 should be that way, not this way. So I will check that, thanks, Dave. But yeah, so basically, assuming that this is correct, 0.41 percent or 41%. Sorry, 41% indicated in control in the control group. 41%.
No, that's not what you've got.
Sorry.
It's 41% of the people who said that they would decrease the area who
Area.
are in the control group.
Yes, that's correct.
Not the same as saying that 41% of people. It's not that you can't flip it.
I will check these numbers, but I think what happened is we messed up because before this was separated, and then we analyzed to combine because it was less than 5%. We were having trouble. Okay, so I don't want to get stuck to that one. Participants who indicated they will increase the area. So if we look at this column, 17% actually in the control group, 17% said they will increase the area, and then 33% said that they will. From treatment 1 is increased, and then from treatment 2 only 26%, which was we thought that it will be the closer to the dates, the more it will be effective. But in treatment 3, it's 23%. Okay.
Are the 4 groups the same size? Control, treatment 1, treatment 2, and treatment 3?
The same.
Same
Well,
numbers?
Well, the planned original one was yes, but however, because of the the dropouts, it's
Okay, so it's not exactly, but it'd be close.
Yes, it should. But as again, the other thing is that this is not yet the full analysis because we are still cleaning the data, so it hasn't been done completely. Okay, so this is the result. Maybe this is what I should really actually concentrate because that's just the means. Okay, so this is the generalized ordered logic. So what we have found is that there is a significant difference in the cut-off one is from the decrease, whether there's a change from the decrease or remain the same, decrease or not change to remain the same, and then the cutoff 2 is remain the same to increase. Okay, so I'll just focus on the cutoff 2 here, which refers to the intention to shift from remain about the same to increase their CASI area. So the 3 treatments were significantly affecting the farmer's intention to adopt CASI. So the three treatments, whether they're only, just one, the messages after 1 week after the treatment, or the messages 2 weeks before planting, or both messages. So all of them were significantly different. And then farmers' decision to adopt CASI was also influenced by being female. So we found here, and head of household education, as well as the number of male and female household members and the total land area and skills used in using CASI. I'll just break this down. So for T1, I think this is where, we're looking at the marginal analysis. T1 had 20.7%, T2 had 31.2%, and T3 had 14% increase in the likelihood of increasing CASI area. So they're significant. And then females had 16.2%, and household heads had 16.17% for every additional 1 male and female household member, had 4.1 and 2.9% respectively. Of course, we cannot change the number of males and females. So for policy, we want to focus on what are the things we can change, isn't it? So on the other hand, every 1 ordinal level increase in education had 1.8%, and every 1 hectare additional land had 14.9% decrease in the likelihood of adding CASI land. Initially, this floored us because we would have thought that higher education means adapting more complex technologies. But if you notice here later on, with CASI, what we felt here is for example, we have found in our results, I'm not sure if I presented it here. Yeah, basically the skills is more important. So informal training was more important than formal education. And the other thing as well is the land. The only reason we could think of is why is that happening is because perhaps most of the bigger landholders, they already own traditional machineries, like they have rotavators. So there's no incentive for them, or they don't see why they should actually buy another CASI machine or use CASI technology because they are already using that. So that's the only reason that we could think of, because why wouldn't they, isn't it? But the good news on the other side of that is that means that for even smallholder farmers, they would be likely to adopt the technology. So just breaking this down a little bit, looking at the treatment without nudging, the probability of increasing CASI for the control group is 22.5%. So that's based on the STATA results. But if we do treatment 1, it will actually increase to 43.2%. So I think this is that one that we should be more particular. The change is 20.7%. And then for treatment 2, it will increase to 53.7%. So 53.7% minus 22.5. If we compare it to the control, it's 31.2%. And if treatment 3, it will increase to 36.5%. So the change was 14%. So we were expecting that treatment 3 will have the highest change, isn't it? Because you're nudging them 2 times. But why is it that it's actually treatment 2 that has the biggest effect? We're thinking that maybe they're either because there's another analysis that we are doing, looking at the psychological profile as well, behavioral psychological profile. That might be just so happen that that group is more of those who have really already made decisions, stronger decisions on whether they adapt or not. But the second thing as well is that, is it possible that people got sick of the messages? That, 6 messages all in all, maybe. And sometimes we do get sick, so that's the only reason that we could think of. Why is it that you would think the more people tell you, the more you're nuts? But maybe some of us, we don't want to be told too often. So that's the only reason we could think. Gender.
Good reason.
So the probability of increase, and maybe you can help us with other suggestions of how we can explain it. So the probability of increasing CASI for male is 34.4%, and if female, it will increase to 50.6%. So people before who said that females will not adopt CASI because they are complex technologies, that's not quite right. So actually, females also are interested in CASI. And for household head, the probability of increasing CASI for non-household head, because we interviewed both household head, they are the decision makers. And then if they're non-household head, their response that they will increase is only 24.9%, but if household head, higher. And that makes it's rational, isn't it? Because they're the decision makers. So if we interviewed, for example, we might have interviewed the spouse and they can't really make a decision. So they would probably say, no change, so, but if it's the household head, maybe they know more. They're also more confident in making that decision. Skills, this is the one I was talking about a while ago. So for every additional 1 ordinal scale increase in skills, increase of skills in using CASI, we have found that the probability of decreasing CASI land area or not adapting at all decreases by 9.2. And then the probability of increasing CASI land area increases by 10.1%. So it looks like having, training will make a difference. Education, this is the one that I said, because we were surprised with this, although the difference is only small, it's only 1.8%. But as I said, the only explanation we could think of is that perhaps informal skills training in CASI is more important than having, a university degree, a higher educational formal degree. Land area, for every additional 1 hectare of land, we have the probability of decreasing CASI land area or not adopting at all decreases by 0.2%, but the probability of increasing CASI land area decreases by 14.9%. This is the one that I said surprised us. But, as I said, we're trying to link this maybe because the richer farmers who have bigger land areas, they already have, they usually own rotavators and other expensive machineries. So really, they probably don't want to change unless they can really, really be convinced about, the benefits of CASI. So finally, relative to the control group, results revealed that the 3 treatment groups were positively affecting farmers' intention to adopt, whether it's just, the timing close to or close just straight after the intervention was done, or close to planting, or in both. So they were all, significantly different from the control. Thus, a set of text reminders, whether a week after the intervention or 2 weeks before planting season, or a combination, will increase. It will have significant increase. However, as we noted, having 2 is not necessarily better than just having 1, because in fact it's lower. I don't know if it will change once we have the whole data set, because we have only analyzed about half, so it could change. And then the other thing, as we have actually shown there, that if you target females actually have a bigger tendency to actually adapt technology. So targeting females and household heads with high CASI skills level, despite their relatively low education level and small land holding, would increase the probability of expanding CASI land. And also, as mentioned, upskilling farmers in CASI will likely increase adoption. So training them in CASI will actually influence adoption. So in conclusion, it appears that sending text reminders to farmers is an effective nudge in increasing farmers' adoption of CASI technology. And moreover, female-headed households with small land holdings actually would likely be interested to adopt CASI. So the idea that females will not be interested in CASI because it's complex technology is not right. They will, and in fact, there's a tendency for them, a larger percentage of them who would like to adopt CASI. So it could be a potential tool to actually bridge the gap, the resource gap among poor female-headed households in South Asia. So the future work, once we have already our full data set, of course we will reanalyze that whole lot, and hopefully the result will not diverge too much. The other thing is that we will perform the difference in differences analysis of CASI land area using the baseline and endline data. So our researchers now are actually gathering the endline data as I speak. So they're very busy in the field gathering, because what we had was just their preferences, so their stated preferences. We don't have actually the revealed preference yet. So we'll only find that out once we actually do the endline data. And then we will compare the results of the post-intervention, their intention to adapt, as well as the actual adoption. And hopefully, in the smaller experiments we have seen that what they say is not necessarily what they do. So it will be really interesting to see whether the revealed actions, their behavior really change. So I just wanted to acknowledge all the men and women farmers. We have disturbed 1,700 farmers in South Asia, interviewed them not just once, but 3 times, and then had to work with them with the experiments. So we thank our partners for nurturing that relationship, working well with the farmers of Bihar Agricultural University, Nepal Agricultural Research Council. I think we have some students who are from NARC, Rajshahi University, RDRS Bangladesh, and UBKB in India. And we also have UNE as a partner for this project. And of course, UWA, thank you so much, James, for allowing me to spend time, and Dave for allowing me to proceed with this project. And the Australian Centre for International Agricultural Research for funding this 4-year project, which has actually now expanded to 5 years because of COVID. So thank you very much, everyone. And I'm happy to take your... How do I get to the screen, because some people might have questions?
Go to the browser, maybe.
The yellow, left, the yellow, red, and green one there. Yeah.
This one.
The circle. Okay. No, but you were in the last spot.
This one. This one.
Yeah.
So Steve has a question. Steve, do you want to speak up?
Steve?
Oh, all right. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
Yes. So thanks for your exposition. The question I had was, because I didn't quite pick it up at the beginning, is in your defining the kind of, reminder nudges, messages, did you specifically choose between technical information as compared to economic benefits or social benefits, social norms, or whatever else? How did you actually choose the content along these different dimensions?
Okay, thanks. Thanks. That's a very good question, Steve. So basically, the full research is actually bigger than the experiments. We actually had a qualitative, component as well before. So we have focus group discussions and key informant interviews to find out what are the drivers of adoptions, to find out how do farmers make their, decision making in terms of technology adoption. So what we have found there in the FGDs and KIIs, that both economic, non-economic, the perception of farmers on how easy to use the technology is, so the technical aspects as well. So some of them, have already seen farmers or talked to farmers, and some of them even have tried already small plots of their land with CASI, and they have found actually some technical difficulties as well with CASI. So in the design of the messages, it was a combination of that. So we used the information from the FGD and KII in determining what should be the content of the message. That's why if you notice, and also the videos. In the videos, we show different aspects as well, which contains economic as well as non-economic. For example, elements of framing. We include the framing there. So there are positive and negative messages. Also, some saying as well that if you don't do this, this is what will happen. And then we also try to show in videos where there are a lot of people in other areas already adopting it, so to show that adoption is increasing in some areas. And then the other aspect we also show there is that the ease of the use of the machinery, that it's not that difficult, unlike what people think, kasi too complex. So we have, shown technical aspects, economic, non-economic as well, and embedded a little bit of the framing. So like, we have also used like both men and women using the kasi technology in the videos. Because if not, if the females see that, only males are operating this, then they will feel they can't do it as well. So there's a lot of thing in the message, and that's what we found one of the most difficult thing actually is designing. It's easy to say, send message, but what's the content? And we actually struggled, and what should we put here? But yeah, so because of the previous components, qualitative components, that helped us decide what will be the content of the video and what will we actually use for the text messages. So with behavioral economics, unlike what some people think that economics does not matter, that's not true. Economics matter. They will not adopt if it's not economically beneficial for them. But what we're saying here is what else can push them? Because even sometimes it's already economically good for their bottom line, they still will not adopt. So what's that thing that's stopping them? So, but I think if it's not economic, it's not beneficial for them, the net benefits are negative. First of all, we should not nudge them to adopt. But secondly, they will not nudge. They will not adopt. So, yes.
Fay, it's Roy here.
Hi, Roy.
I'd just like to make the comment that it differs also from crop to crop. So maize is more a cash crop than rice. Rice is a subsistence security crop, food security crop. So the message for rice needs to focus more on how good the technology is for food security, whereas for maize, you're much more concerned about income. And women face a lot more drudgery. So the issue of drudgery in terms of the work they have to do is more relevant to women than it is to men. So the messages for men and women sometimes have to be different. Not that we did that differently in this trial, but we need to be aware of those factors.
So I'm excited to see how this research has been progressing. One of the questions that I had though is that if you're nudging by way of SMS, I'm curious, did you discuss with participants before, such as how many SMSs do they get on a regular basis? Just because if the findings is that the difference between 1 and 2 messages is that significant. I mean, I know that I get messages all the time from my phone company, from Domino's Pizza, from all these different things that I've signed up for. So getting one more message just adds to that load. And so I'm curious as to that difference between treatments 1 and 2 and treatment 3, where you've got the postulate that having the additional messages is turning people off. Is I'm curious as to what that looks like with the background of all of the other messages that they may or may not be getting. Do you feel like that's something that's worthwhile, that might be worthwhile looking at?
So when you say background,
just so
how many of the, like
how many messages do they normally get?
Yes, that's a good one.
Because I think of it sort of like spam email. You start to get annoyed at
yes. So we did not do it. In this particular, we didn't ask a question on that. However, we are still because apart from the quantitative parts we need to do, we are actually also going to develop case studies as well to understand really what is it that made them. So maybe that's one of the things we can ask them as well. How many messages do you actually get? Because that could influence it. Yeah.
Hello, Fay. Could you just respond for this question?
Yeah. Which question is it? Farid? Is that hello, Farid?
Yes. So thank you very much. That's very really nice question. So we checked randomly to our farmers that whether they received the message or not, whether they read it. Unfortunately, we noticed that mostly those farmers didn't actually notice the messages. Then we contact our key farmers and to tell him, to inform the all other farmers that we send a specific message in a particular time to check it. Maybe because of that, many messages coming per day from the company or the operators or some other notifications. So sometimes actually they misses the text messages. And in Bangladesh particularly under the in the low income group, they are more interested to talk rather than just sending the text messages or not. So that could be one reason because of the difference between treatment 2 and treatment 3. So we relied on our key farmers to tell them, we send them messages and to check whether they received it or not. So it could be the one concern as well. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Farid. So Farid is our project leader in Bangladesh. So he knows what's happening on the ground.
Yeah, thank you, Fay. There is a person from CIMIT. They have raised their hand. Dr. Thakur, do you want to speak up?
Yes, thank you, sir. And thank you and congratulations, Fay. Are you hearing me?
Yes, I can hear you, TP.
Yeah.
Hello.
So, hello. And I'm very sorry that I missed your earlier part of the presentation because of this connection issue. So, in fact, it's not a question, it's a rather a kind of clarification. And how we have defined regarding the control group. You might have already covered it, but I'm sorry that I might have missed.
Yes. The control group are the farmers who did not receive any text messages. So basically for the treatments, all the treatments, control and treatment 1, 2, and 3, they all saw the video first. So all they saw was the video about CASI, what are the benefits of CASI, and then the ease of the technology and so on. But then in the treatments 1, 2, and 3 received text messages. The control group did not receive any text message.
So it means video was shown to them, but without any, physical explanation.
That's correct.
Messages.
That's correct. So the video was shown to them in a in a group setting, and they were allowed to ask questions to clarify about the technology. And the reason why the video was shown to everyone was to try to even the playing field. So all of them knows about the technology. So people cannot say, oh, I didn't adapt because I didn't understand what CASI is. So all of them should have that. But the treatment we were testing was the nudge, and the nudge was the text messages. So that's why they did not, receive any text messages. So after the video, that was it. We did not interact with them anymore.
Yeah, okay then. Thank you.
Okay. If you want to, we can. Yeah, go ahead.
There are some questions here in the room, so maybe Michael first. Online. Okay, online first. Okay.
Dr. Fay, can I make a question or suggestion?
Yes, please. Hello, Dr. KK.
Yeah, good morning. And my suggestion I can tell you is that the nice findings are coming out of our experimental findings. It's very much encouraging that female-headed households, the response from them is very much encouraging. But from policy perspective, so when we'll be thinking about it, we have to think about the male participants also, because all these months in Bangladesh and India, in Nepal, it is female-headed households is more. But in Bangladesh and in India, only 10 to 12% or 15% female-headed households will be there. So if we are targeting our potential adopters, because we are targeting that the adoption will be in. So from our experimental findings, added to this, in conclusion, we'll be giving some clue also how the male counterparts also to be included and encouraged from our findings. That is my suggestion.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Dr. KK. Yes, so I think that one of the things that the results is showing is that, you know how in some of these countries, due to sociocultural norms, there is actually a feeling that females cannot operate complex technology. So they're not being targeted when it comes to extension of machineries and all that. So what we are showing here is that actually that's not quite true. They are interested and they actually are willing to adapt. So we should not exclude them. So when we're inviting them for training, they should not be excluded. They should actually be part and parcel of, you know, the plan for training. So thank you, Dr. KK.
Yeah.
And there's another question. As your results show educated and large and have are less likely to have CASI, what strategies that you would? That you would like to set to engage them and scale up CASI in that region? Yeah. So as I said, this is a surprise for us, but the connection we could make, and we can actually find out why when we do the case studies, because we're going back to interview some of them, and the design again of the case studies would be critical. So we will be interviewing not just the adapters, but also the non-adapters, and those who said they intend to adapt, but they did not adapt. So we will, we need to understand what's the whole story here. And we will also try, that's another thing that we want to investigate further. Why is it that they actually, technically, they are actually able to afford the technology, they are rich, they're bigger farmers, but why are they not wanting to do this? Are they already happy with what they have? Are they happy, or, so we need to understand more, Dinesh, on why. It doesn't mean that we'll exclude them, but we can actually look more closely on their data. Maybe they're doing really well because they already have all the inputs they need. But the other thing, the other side that it is showing us that even if the farmers are small, even if they are poor, they can still adopt CASI. So CASI can still be used to encourage them to actually increase their production, or use it as a tool to increase their production and income. But yes, we need further understanding of the rationale for this. Why are they not adapting? And I think this was also consistent with some of the findings we had in SRFSI. So we really need to understand what's happening there. But the good news is that it's saying that CASI is not just for rich farmers. It's actually also suited to poorer farmers, to smallholder farmers. Yes.
Oh, thank you for that presentation. My point is not really a question, but a point of clarification. Because of the framing of the questions that were being asked. So you're asking them at 3 levels whether they intend to decrease the land area under CASI, or they intend to increase, and they just intend to remain the same. Okay. So if that is the question that you're asking, then listening to what you have presented, I think what you're asking is I'm not sure whether the question is really about their intention to adapt, but their intensity of adoption. Because already they have adapted. So you're just asking the question, are they going to increase the area, or they're going to decrease? So my point is that then I think you're looking at the intensity of adoption rather than the intention, because the intention, we presume that they have not adapted. Mm-hmm. So what you're asking them is whether they will adapt once they have been exposed to the information or not. So to me, it's just the framing of your presentation that I think actually maybe I either missed the point, or maybe something is not clear.
Yeah, I presented only the intention to that, but we actually have data on the intensity. So we actually have quantitative analysis, but we're not presenting. I didn't, because I just had little time. But anyway, yes, we do have that. I think in my other presentation I did that, with the reminders, and the one I presented last year. I also showed the intention. So we looked at both. So the intention as well as the intensity.
So this study then is about the intensity, not intention.
So both. This one, we have both the intensity of adoption as well as, but the one that I presented now was just the intention. Whether they increase or decrease the adoption. So it's a percentage change. That's why I showed the marginal.
It's intention to change your intensity.
Yeah. Yes, because the percentage land area, whether they will increase. their land area. Sorry, Roy.
Right. The problem is that some people have already adopted. We're not doing it in an area where they don't have machines. So some people have already adopted. The question is, so, you know, it's having an impact on area, which is partly intensity, but it's also causing some people to adopt and other people to increase their levels of adoption.
But we do have the data on also looking at that, you know, the percentage of the land. Then we can compare them before and after. So we'll have a more, maybe next year, more complete.
Maybe it's good to separate or just to give the statistics of those who are not adapted.
Yes.
And through those nudges that they adapted, then that will suit your title. Then it will be the intention to adapt. And if you already have those who have adapted, then to me, I think more of what you're presenting is the intensity of adaptation. So it depends on the proportion. What is the proportion of adapters and non-adapters in your sample?
So in my next presentation, I'll be doing that because we do have the data to do that. So I see your point, Amin.
Yeah, maybe you want to finish with that last question. Yeah, there's no one waiting outside, but it's 12 past 12.
In the case studies, we do explore the role of trust. Yes, in perhaps in addition to annoyance, the drafting reduction and to treat it. Yes. Yes, that's right. Yes, we will do that. Jack, thank you for your question. Yes, we are planning to do that. We do have, so we're using really, you know, behavioral economics because the questions we'll be asking will be digging not just with the economic questions. We have a psychologist in our team, also a sociologist who will help us dig deeper into that. So including trust and other behavioral aspects as well. And we're also doing some analysis looking at the behavioral profile of farmers, risk. We are also investigating that. So we're doing, in fact, we have one paper. I don't know if Rene is here. So he's leading a paper looking at, you know, profiling. Hi, Rene. So looking at, whether there's a difference in adoption depending on their profile. And we actually have found that 3 types of farmers. And one of them is like, the fast innovators. And then there's one that can be swayed. So this is probably where we should target. The other one that's fixed already, difficult. Yes, we can target, but we need more effort. So if you want fast impact, target those that are likely that you can still sway. So Rene is leading the work on that.